Good afternoon. Today I'm going to present my historic presentation slideshow. I chose to do my slideshow on the Apollo 11 and the historic moon landing in 1969. Apollo 11 takes flight at the beginning of historic journey. One of the greatest achievements in history, Apollo 11 mission on July 16, 1969. Saturn V rocket lifted from the Kennedy Space in Florida. Millions watched as no other human being had ever completed this mission. The goal was to travel 240,000 miles to the moon and land safely and return home. Meet the crew. The Apollo 11 crew was made up of 3 astronauts. Neil Armstrong, who would be the commander in post, he would lead the mission and later become the first man to walk the moon. Buzz Aldrin was the lunar module pilot, and he became the second person to walk the moon. And Michael Collins was the command pilot. Even though he did not walk the moon, he still was a very important astronaut in this historic landing and journey. Journey through space. Leaving Earth, they traveled through space for 4 days. While in the spacecraft those 4 days, they would do safety checks, monitor equipment, report back to the command post, which was in Houston. It was said that they would look back and see that only Earth was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. On July 19th, Apollo 11 entered orbit and could see the moon's surface below. They were about to prepare one of the most dangerous historic parts, landing. The Eagle has landed. They named the spacecraft the Eagle. And on July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin entered lunar module and descended. Neil Armstrong noticed that where they were supposed to land had rocks and that it was not safe for them to land there, so he would have to guide the spacecraft to land in a safer part. So you can imagine how tense this moment was. It was also said that they were low on fuel, so they're nervous. They're about to land on the moon's surface, and not only are they low on fuel, where they're supposed to land has a bunch of rocks and they can't land there. So he has to guide the aircraft to land. When finally it landed, Armstrong called into the control center and said, "Houston, the Eagle has landed." One small step for mankind. Several hours after landing, Armstrong climbed down the ladder, and on July 20th, he placed his foot on the moon's surface, and he became the first person to walk on its surface. As he placed his foot on the moon, he said the famous words, "A small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Soon after, Buzz Aldrin would join him and become the second man to walk on the moon. This would prove years of human efforts showing the world that something believed impossible could be done. Planting the American flag and scientific experiments. While on the moon's surface, Armstrong and Aldrin planted an American flag for achievement. This was not to show or take ownership of the moon. This was simply to show achievement and success and represent the United States. There was no wind on the moon, so they had to place a horizontal bar on the top of the flag to keep the flag open. They also would conduct research experiments, science experiments, scientific experiments. They collected almost 50 tons of rocks, moon rocks, took pictures, and explored. Today, this flag still is there. They would also put a reflector on the moon as well. That way, it's still used today in spacecraft journeys to the moon. You can still see the reflector today that they placed there. Apollo 11's lasting legacy. This mission fulfilled President J.F. Kennedy's goal of landing a person on the moon before the end of the 1960s. It inspired millions to become more interested in science, math, and space. Apollo 11 helped shape later space programs. Apollo 11's legacy showed bravery, courage, and commitment, and teamwork. In conclusion, it showed how something so impossible that was thought to be impossible could be done. It showed when these astronauts came together and worked together in the sciences and command posts that bravery and teamwork could be done. And it goes to show you, even though a goal seems so big or impossible to achieve, it can be done. Thank you for listening.